Hello, welcome, we're live. Did you notice the old Digital DJ Tips logo on this slip mat that's spinning around in front of me? We are talking turntables today. We haven't talked turntables for a long time. This is everything that you were afraid to ask about DJ turntables. You're going to learn it all today. Like, for instance, why? Well, no, I'm going to hold off on even asking the questions. I'll let you ask the questions. We're live, so if you'd like to ask any question that you've always wanted an answer to about DJ turntables, do it in the comments. I've got them all here. But if you're watching the replay, enjoy this show. We're going to talk everything you ever wanted to know about these things, but we're afraid to ask. It's a proper Bluffer's guide. So, in this live show, I'm going to talk about why turntables are still relevant today, why you might want to buy them. I'm going to give you a tour of all the different parts of a modern DJ turntable, and I'm going to answer some questions and give you a few little turntable facts as we move through. So it's good to be here. It's good to present this lesson. We are Digital DJ Tips, the world's leading online DJ school, and every week in term time, we do live lessons like this where we just pick a DJ topic and we talk about it. So if you're watching the replay, as I say, you can still ask questions underneath, but if you want to come and join us live, you've got to be a subscriber, not to the channel, don't care about that, but go to digitaldjtips.com, click the join button, it's all free, and we can let you know when we do these live lessons so that you don't miss one and you can join in the fun. Right, let's talk turntables then. So firstly, why are we talking turntables? Why are these things even relevant? Surely DJs have moved on nowadays to controllers and all that kind of thing. Well, interestingly, that is kind of the case, but not all the story. Yes, it is true that when it comes to vinyl, here's my lovely remnants of my massive thousands big vinyl collection that I used to have. When it comes to vinyl, it is dying out. Even the vinyl DJs are saying that, even the vinyl pressing plants and the record labels and so on are saying the same thing. It's becoming harder and harder to produce vinyl for DJing with, and the only thing propping up the whole vinyl industry is Taylor Swift and Adele and Ed Sheeran and all those people who are pressing up their albums for their middle-aged fan base to go and buy the vinyl and sit at home and stroke their chins and listen to it. There's nothing wrong with that, but it isn't DJing. When it comes to DJing, it's just not being done anymore on vinyl to the biggest extent out there. However, it doesn't mean it's dead. Absolutely far from it, because of course DJs are now using this stuff, control vinyl. They're using the same turntables to control their DJ software. So control vinyl will let you basically play computer code through to your software, and when you put the control vinyl on there and hit the play, all you're going to hear is screeching. However, that screeching means something to your DJ software, and so by using two DJ turntables set up in that way, you can control Serato, Tractor, Record Box, Virtual DJ, and you get all the feel of DJing on vinyl with plus some also some advantages, but you don't actually need to have any real records with real noise on them. And that's why a lot of DJs nowadays who play all the time on turntables only own two records. One record for their left-hand turntable and one record for their right-hand turntable. Now also, it is possible to do all of this stuff on your phone. Unbelievably, you can do all this on the phone nowadays. Indeed, our very own tutor, DJ Angelo, whose course is available here in the Digital DJ Tips School, did a set at IMS in Ibiza just recently where he was doing just that. This is his current YouTube page, so you can go search for this. Go search on YouTube for DJ Angelo live at IMS 2023 Ibiza, which looks just like a DJ played away, right? Until you notice at the top here, he's using his phone. There's no computer there at all. And this is control vinyl. And this control vinyl that Angelo is using here isn't any old control vinyl. These aren't just records that let you control your DJ software. He's using these. And these are very, very special because these have got one side, which is just a normal side of vinyl that will let you control your DJ software. But the other side is called Neural Mix. And a neural mix piece of vinyl has got a section that controls the whole song, the instrumental, and the a cappella. So by dropping your needle onto the a cappella part, you get an instant a cappella on your DJ software. You can drop your needle onto the instrumental part and you get no vocals. So this is mind-blowing stuff. It's why turntables are still relevant, because DJs are using them for all kinds of new things. Controlling stems in real time on your phone with music from Beatport that you don't even own and that's being streamed into your phone. This is all very new. You know, a lot of scenes love to keep up with what's going on. Look at Jazzy Jeff, our very own Jazzy Jeff, who's also, of course, got a course here at Digital DJ Tips. Jazzy Jeff stays right up front with technology, but he's always DJing on something spinning. And I think if we're going to talk about why turntables have remained so important and why turntables are never going to lose relevancy, it's the fact that when you hit play on a turntable, you get torque. I'm having to do something to stop this going round, and as soon as I let go, it carries on. That torque, that feel of pulling back and letting go is part of the feel of what it's like to DJ, and it's why even controllers nowadays like the Rain 1, the Rain 12 control decks, and others as well, still some of them stick with the motorized platter because it just feels more like DJing always felt. So turntables are here to stay. You can use them on your phone, you can use them to control your DJ software. If you still want to play vinyl, you can do it, although it's getting harder. And so there's lots of reasons why you might want to DJ with a turntable. Maybe you want to learn the history. Maybe you started on your phone and then you finally got yourself a little controller, and then you finally got yourself like CDJs or something, and you start to learn on something like this, the pure Pioneer DJ, Pro DJ setup. But then eventually you thought, I just want to learn to DJ on vinyl. Well, turntables is of course the way to go to DJ on vinyl. Maybe you've always loved DJing on turntables and you've come back to this hobby and you want to DJ on them. Maybe you still own them. And so for all these reasons, learning to DJ on turntables is something that might interest you. And of course, you might want to learn to scratch like your favorite DJs, like Jazzy Jeff, and see him doing it on turntables and think, hey, I want to do that. But there's another scene. As well as turntablism or scratching, there's another scene. Portablism. This is a portable turntable. It can only play 7-inch singles, but it's got a crossfader. You can feed music into this thing from your phone by Bluetooth, for instance, and go and scratch anywhere you want and go and practice your moves and so on. So people are using these in bands, a DJ in a band adding scratching to the sound of the band and so on. Turntables are here to stay. By the way, one question we get asked a lot before I forget is why this? Why this floppy little felt mat or butter rug or whatever you want to call it? And the reason is very simple. These turntables are provided with a big fat rubber heavy platter that goes over the top of this, right? And that big fat rubber heavy platter is great if you're using these turntables for, this is a Technics 1210, for their original use, which was as a hi-fi turntable, but you couldn't scratch on it because as soon as you touch the record, the whole thing stopped like this. And when you're scratching, you don't want the whole thing to stop. You want it to carry on going round. That's still going around, and you can see it's still going around because these little lights here are showing you when it's stopped, it's all stopped, right? So when I do this, there's hardly any difference here. And that means that you can scratch and do your thing, and as soon as you let go, it carries on where it left off. So that's why DJs use these little mats rather than their supplied platter, and that the supply platter is always taken off. And by the way, while we're talking about this, there's something else I noticed that isn't in the lesson today, but for all you DJs maybe getting a turntable from another country, if you look here, there is this is a Technics 1210, the classic turntable. There is a little thing that has got the voltage changer, so you have to move this around, and there's your 240 volts and 120 volt changer for making sure that you don't blow the thing up when you plug it in. Worth knowing. Right, let's now move on to the main part of this lesson, which is I wanted to describe all the parts of the turntable to you, because if you've never seen a turntable before, there's no reason why you should know what all these parts are, and there's nothing daunting here at all. So let's do that. Let's spend a little bit of time now just talking through the different parts of a turntable. So in no particular order, let's start back here. What's this? This is a 7-inch adapter. This goes over there and lets you play those 7-inch singles, which are common in the US, not so common in Europe, but they are common in jukeboxes, for instance, because jukeboxes have these big type of movers for the records. They don't have a little spindle. Where if the record's got a wide hole in it, that goes on there to adapt it so that the record stays in the center. So this is specifically for making records with big holes in the middle rather than little holes fit properly bang on the middle, because you want your record bang on the middle, because otherwise it's going to slur and get louder and quieter if the hole isn't in the middle. So that is what that is for. It's called a 7-inch adapter. So this area here has got a lot of quite scary looking controls on it. Let's have a little zoom in to this area and talk about what's going on here. So this is called my hand's just off camera there. This is what I'm pointing at. It's called the counterbalance or the weight. And the counterweight is designed to make sure that you've got the right amount of weight on your needle. We'll get to your needle in a minute. Your needle sits on the record and tracks around and plays what's going on the record. If this is set too light, then the needle will jump around. If this is set too heavy, you could potentially damage your stylus, your needle, or the record itself. So the idea here is you set this to 0, like that. And then you make sure that the needle and the arm are completely horizontal. When they balance, they're completely horizontal. When they are, you double check that that's set to 0 here, and then you add the required weight on by moving this around. So if the cartridge manufacturer says this has got to be at 2.5 grams, then you turn this is in grams, you turn it to 2.5. And so that's the way that works. That's what that's for. It's a way of weighting the needle correctly. So also while we're in this area, this little dial down here is a dial that is used for adjusting the height of the back of the unit. Now normally you wouldn't change that, but there have been circumstances where, for instance, you're DJing, and we're going to look at the cartridge in a minute, and the cartridge, the plastic casing of the cartridge might be scraping on the record, and if you just move this up or down a little bit, you can kind of correct that kind of thing. Ultimately you want this to be horizontal. You want this to be horizontal to the body of the turntable, and so that's what this is for. Now, another important control around here is the anti-skating control, and this stops. There's a tendency for the needle to be pulled towards the middle of the record when it's playing. I don't know why it's not thrown out by centrifugal force, but it isn't. It's pulled towards the middle. This stops that happening. And generally you set that to the same as you've got this set to. So if that's set to 2.5 grams, this will be set to 2.5 grams as well. This is just for lifting it up and down. It's a physical control with a little dampened lifter there. No one ever uses that. That lives down, because DJs use their fingers to put the needle in and out of the record like that. So that's called the Q lever. The Q lever, by the way. Right, let's have a look at this bit at the end here. This is important. This is where the magic happens. The record has got lots and lots of little grooves in. It looks like the Grand Canyon, but in microscopic size, going all the way around. And the grooves are what vibrate this. This is the needle. This little thing here is actually a real diamond needle in there. And that needle is what goes through the grooves of the record. And that is plugged into this, which is called the cartridge. And the cartridge has got a magnetic coil in it. And the small vibrations from the needle create tiny electrical impulses in the magnetic coil, which is fed via these wires here up through this end point here. And that is the whole point of this. So you can buy needles, you can buy cartridges, you screw it all together onto this part, which is called the head shell, and then the head shell screws onto here. And that microscopic, tiny voltages, because the only current, the only electricity in here is turning this around and making the lights go. And so there's no amplification, there's no circuitry in here. The tiny, tiny, tiny voltages from here are sent out the back and into your mixer. And your mixer has what's called an RIAA phono amplifier or preamplifier that turns that tiny, tiny current into the same kind of output that you get from, say, CDJs, which is a lot louder, a lot more powerful. And then it can be treated like any other input from the turntable. And hi-fi buffs, they buy separate phono preamplifiers that sound the way they want them to sound and stuff like that. Your mixer will have one built in. And so that is the difference when you plug into the back of a mixer and it is set to phono, which is another word for record player. That's what's happening. You're setting it and telling it to amplify that tiny signal. It's also the reason why, at least on Technics turntables, as well as the usual RCA sockets, there is there's this one here, an extra piece of wire. It's an earth cable and it connects to the little earth pole on the back of your mixer, and it takes any buzz, and any hum created by the circuitry in the turntable and so on, or by the earthing or by your hands being near. It takes all that buzz away and gives you a nice clean signal. Quite often if a turntable sounds buzzy, it's because this has come accidentally undone from the back of the mixer. Not many turntables have this anymore. Technics is holding on to that tech. I mean, this turntable is literally, I don't know, 1989. It still works fine. These haven't changed very much over the years, trust me on that one. So that is the head shell and the head shell holder and the cartridge and the needle explained. So this control here, this is the pitch adjuster. This slows the turntable down 8% and speeds it up 8%. Why is it called a pitch adjuster? Because it gets higher when you speed up and it gets lower when you go down. Even though I'm pushing it up, it gets slower. Even though I'm pulling it down, it gets faster. It's just the way it is. And if you go to about 4%, these are the numbers here, up or down, you go up or down a semitone. And so you can move up 1, 2, down 1, 2 notes simply by slowing down and speeding up the turntable. It's how we used to mix in key back in the days when mixed in key software didn't exist and we had to label our records up and all that kind of thing just in order to do that. Some turntables have a pitch reset button here that isn't on the original Technics 1210s, and that'll turn off the pitch and set it back to naught. So this is completely bypassed. So that is the reason for that button if you see it. This is for 33 and 45. Of course, albums tend to play at 33, 12 inches and 7 inches and 10 inches tend to play at 45 RPM. So that's what that's for. Some turntables, when you press them both, you get 78, but you don't on this one. So we've already talked about this bit in the middle, the spindle, but this is connected directly to the motor. So good DJ turntables, as well as being very heavy, this weighs a lot, which reduces vibrations, have a motor directly underneath here, and this is literally connected directly to it. There's no belt like you get on cheaper turntables. Another thing that people often ask about is these lights here that we've already kind of looked at very briefly. So let's just turn the turntable around a little bit so you can see them a little bit better there. So these lights are what are called the strobe lights, and the strobe lights are designed to show you how far away from true pitch your pitch fader is. So off camera I'm moving the pitch fader down and you can see these lights are changing. In fact, the middle one, the main light in the middle there, is currently still. It's pretty hard to see with the frames per minute on our cameras, which means we're at true pitch. If I move the pitch down, the bottom one is now still, and that means that we're down about 4%. And if I move up, this middle one here, middle top, means we're going at about 3% faster, and I keep moving up, then we're about 6% faster. So that's what these are for. These are designed to tell you visually whether your track is going at a true speed or whether it is going a bit faster or a bit slower than it should be. So there's a little light here as well. Popping this out, this is a little light. This is actually not working on this turntable. This is designed to show you the surface of the record. It shines a light right across there, and it means that when you're DJing, you can get right down here and you can look at the surface of the record and you can see when a breakdown is coming up if you're playing real vinyl, because real vinyl you can tell the breakdowns because they are smoother, because the grooves aren't as thick. Remember, we said the grooves are like the Grand Canyon, and all the undulations is the music. So if you're looking at a real record, this one hasn't got a massively obvious breakdown on it, but we'll try and show you anyway. If you're looking at a real record, I mean, the obvious place to look is where my little fingernail is there, right? This is where the two tracks on this side of the record join. That is actually silence, and you can see it's different. But you can see also there's quite a loud bit of the record here. It just looks a bit different, and that is what's going on there. It is the differences in volume. And then if you're in a club where it's very dark, then without a light there shining across the record, there's no way you could see that. And we did spend a lot of time back in the days of DJing with real vinyl, literally like this, saying, okay, the breakdown's about ½ an inch away, that means about 16 bars, and you get your next track ready based upon that. So that's what that is. I think I've actually covered most of the main parts of the turntable there. And so now I want to answer a few questions that people always ask. I've just got a couple of questions actually that we seem to get asked a lot. The first one is, why do DJs turn their turntable round like this? and DJ with them like that. It's not because the table's not wide enough and they want to get two turntables and a mixer together without the table being too small. It's because when you're scratching on a turntable, one of the things that makes it easier is if your hands are kind of free here. So by turning the turntable around like that, you push the tone arm to the back of the turntable, and so you've got basically an easier area to do your tricks with. So Scratch DJ started doing that, and it's kind of quite trendy to do that, so that's why. Another thing is, why do DJs put a penny on top here? Quite often you see a penny or even a weight stuck to the top here. It's to stop the needle jumping. For whatever reason, if the needle's jumping out of the vinyl, it's to do that. So they're the main questions that I get kind of asked over and over again. I want to tell you a little trick, and I want to tell you also a little riddle that you can maybe catch your friends out with. Firstly, the trick. This is a good one, and I wish I still had it in the studio, but I don't. You need one of those old-fashioned glass ashtrays. Remember the glass ashtrays? And you put it upside down on the turntable there, and you get a piece of blue tack or any kind of like tack, you know the kind of stuff I mean. You put it on there and you put your record on top. And what that does is raise your record up by about this much, right? So once you've done that, you turn your stylus over 180 degrees and you put it underneath the record. Remember, you've used an ashtray to raise the record up. And then you, instead of to play the record, you lift the arm up. This is one time when you do need the arm, and it lifts it up onto the underside of the record and the record plays. So what you're going to do then is play the record backwards. It's a little trick that you see DJs doing sometimes, and I remember back in the day being in a club watching Derek May DJing, and he did exactly that. And I was the DJ booth was here, and there were some steps behind me, and I was halfway up the steps behind him, looking down on him, hearing this track going backwards, and he had it, of course, in perfect time with the one that was going forwards, and that is what he was doing. So if you have got an old-fashioned glass ashtray and you want to mess around with a piece of real vinyl and try and get your turntable to play backwards, and if you use this kind of stylus, of course, because it has to be the kind of stylus that you can flip around 180 degrees, then have a go at that. So the little riddle, the little fun trick you can play on your friends if you are bored in the pub is say, how many grooves are there on a record? Oh, thousands, aren't there? There must be, I don't know, 5,000? 2. One on that side, one on that side, because of course it's all one big groove. Huh? See, did I get you? Did I get you there? Right. If you, I have to do this because we're meant to do something like this in every lesson, so I'll do it quickly because I want to talk to you. If you want to learn more about scratching, about using this kind of stuff to perform in the way that we see people like Angelo performing in this video that I do recommend you go and have a watch over on YouTube, then we have a course for that. So the Digital DJ Tips is a digital school, yep, but we do teach on turntables. Where do we teach on turntables? Well, if you head to the Digital DJ Tips website, digitaldjtips.com, go to DJ courses, scroll down and click on Scratching for Controller DJs. We'll teach you all the scratch moves on the DJ controller you already own, on the gear that you've already got, and then all of these skills can be transferred directly to your turntables when you finally get around to buying some, and it can be a good way of deciding if you want to make that investment, because guess what, it's perfectly possible to scratch on all controllers. You don't need motorized controllers, you don't need 12-inch platters. We teach you the lot, and there's lots of turntable stuff in there. And guess what, Angelo is in there as well, helping our tutor Steve out. So it's a real family affair, this course. Go take a look at Scratching for Controller DJs if you're interested in that. And also, before I forget, because I want to spend the rest of the lesson talking to you about turntables and about what you think of them and their future and so on. But before I forget, there is something that I want to tell you. My team will be screaming at the screen now saying, don't forget Phil. So I'm going to do it right now while I remember. And that is, we're running a really good free draw at the moment. Head to Digital DJ Tips and go to the blog. And in here, you will see our current competition, which is this one here. Win V-Moda headphones. You can win a personalized pair of V-Moda headphones with your DJ logo on them. And we've also got 10 pairs of these headphones as well. They're crossfade LP2 headphones. They're really good DJ headphones. In order to enter, you just go click the link on there and the page that loads is where you enter this. It's completely free to enter. So if you want to win a pair and you are in the US, EU or UK, because our logistic partner can only provide in this instance to those areas. So you've got to be in the US, EU or UK, and you want to win a pair of personalized headphones or a pair of the 10 pairs we have here that are standard headphones. They're all great. Then go fill that in. It's closing in just a couple of days. So the 2nd of June, by the look of it. No, the 1st of June. I'm reading our own rules and regs. Yeah, so it's closing. What is it today? The 30th? So yeah, it's closing in less than 2 days. So do go and take a look at that now. There you go, team. I've done it. I've given the publicity that you asked for to the free draw. And why wouldn't I? It's a great draw. Right. It's all about you guys and girls now. What do you want to say about turntables? How have turntables changed your life? How have they been part of your DJing? Have they got a future? You tell me. I've got all your comments here and I will be pulling out the ones that I think are most useful, most fun to share. Let's pull the computer in to make my life a little bit easier. Firstly, hello to all of our regulars. Hello to You Don't Like My Music, who says, what's a turntable? I see what you did there. You Don't Like My Music. Hello to Retro Robson in Newcastle. Hello to Mixmaster G, who's in the Netherlands where it's chilly. Although Robert's also in the Netherlands and he says it's warm. But both of you are agreeing that it's overcast. Hello to Nick. Hello to DJ Pistol Pete in Western Australia, staying up late for this. Thank you, Pistol Pete. And hello to DJ Baldrin, to Dave Smith, to Benny in Tampa, Florida. Right, okay, what have you got to say about turntables? I still have a wall of vinyl and a Stanton turntable, which I haven't plugged in over a decade. So, wow, that's, you know, you can use your turntables to rip vinyl, of course. There's often vinyl that is not available anywhere else. And so you can grab that vinyl and rip it, especially if you've got a DJ mixer, because modern DJ mixers have those phono pre-stages in them. So especially if your mixer also has USBs on it, then you plug your turntable in, you get it sounding nice, plug your USB in your computer, and you can rip directly to turntables there. So to a computer from a turntable there. Retro Robson says, I never did scratching in the old days. Now I've learned to do it and I like it. So it's good to hear that. This is a good question from Spider. Which turntable do you suggest that's good for digitizing from vinyl to digital? I saw somewhere that Recordbox DJ software offers the option to directly convert the software to convert within the software from a turntable. Right, okay, so let's talk very quickly about ripping your vinyl with a turntable. You don't need to have direct drive DJ turntables like this if all you want to do is rip. You just need a semi-decent turntable. You can buy really nice hi-fi turntables nowadays for like a couple of $100 that will do the job just fine. So just go to any hi-fi website or magazine and look for decent turntables. They will be no good for DJing with. They'll be absolutely fine for ripping. You might want to look at one that's got a line output. Remember I said these turntables don't have any amplification in them. You might want to look at one that's got line output, because then you can plug it directly into an audio interface and go into your computer without needing to have a preamp to amplify the phono output. You might even want to look for one that's got a USB output that makes everything easy for you. Just make sure you're not buying really cheap rubbish that will sound bad. But once you get past a couple of hundred, if you do your research, you'll find a good turntable for doing that. As far as DJ turntables go, the one that I would recommend if you wanted to go and buy a turntable today is the Reloop RP7000. The Audio-Technica 140 is quite good as well. They're the two. The Pioneer PLX 1000 is a good turntable. The Technics, the new Technics, the SL 1200 or 1210 Mark 7 are all right, but they're a bit lightweight. Remember I said they should be heavy. And Mojax has got a great video online where he put one on a speaker, turned the speaker up loud and showed how quickly the audio skips, which doesn't happen on the old-fashioned Technics, which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, to me, if you just said one turntable, I'd say the Reloop RP7000 is a great turntable. Right, let's see what else we've got to say here. I honestly don't miss carrying the crates around, say about 10 of you, but I do reminisce about those glory days. Yeah, too much. If you were around in the 90s, scratching got played out so much, every other pop band had a scratch DJ, indeed. Jarrett says, turntables just make me feel more connected to the music that I love. Yeah, that's a common thing. Marlon, love turntables. Aren't Technics 1210s over $1,000? They were so expensive back in the day. They are still very expensive. Mine cost about £400 each. back in the day, I seem to remember. How do you know when they need a service? Good question, if they're not working properly. The next comment I got here is from Scott, who says, I've been using Technics. Oh, it's another one. While we're talking turntable trivia, we in Europe call them Technics. You in the States call them Techniques. You are right. That is the correct way of pronouncing them, but you'll never change the way we say that word. It's a culture thing, but you are completely right if you call them Techniques, although it is spelt Technics with a CS on the end, not a QUE. So Revisited, Disco Back in the House, says, I was brought up on Jarrard SP25 belt drive turntables back in 1983. I used to create a rudimentary pitch control by moving the 33, 45, 78 speed selector, which would stretch the belt and alter the speed. Wow, thank you for sharing that piece of trivia there. I love this stuff. However, I'm totally digital now with my XDJ XZ, so there we go. If you have a good turntable, don't skimp on the cartridge. Good question. People often ask, why are turntables sold without a cartridge? Sure, if I'm spending all that money, I should be given the cartridge as well. Well, the reason is that they expect you, once you're spending a decent amount of money on a turntable, to actually decide what cartridge you want and go and buy it separately. So cheaper turntables, ironically, I guess, are the ones that tend to come with cartridges already, because cheap turntable, cheap cartridge. But if you buy an expensive turntable, they expect you to provide your own. And as you say, do not fluff it. Make sure you spend decent money on the cartridge if you're going to spend decent money on the turntable. Michael says, thank you for today's episode. It's been really interesting. You're very welcome. Don't ever take the fluff off the needle when you've just got out of the shower. I did it once. Why? What happened? Did you get an electric shock? What happened? So yeah, taking the fluff off the needle, this is a time-honored thing for DJs. As your track is spinning away, you hear the audio starting to get all muffled. The reason is that the needle is full of fluff. With your finger and thumb, gently pick it off, throw it away, and you've now got a clean needle. And the way I used to clean records, everyone had their own way. You know, you don't see DJs carrying record cleaning kits with them or anything. The way I used to clean records is to get my thumb. I used to wipe my thumb on my trousers, just to get most of the grease off. And then I would start the record going round with my finger. I'd put my thumb on the middle, and then I'd slowly move my thumb from the middle to the edge, like that. And then you probably can't see that. I've managed to get some dust off this record here. The reason for that, the reason I used to do it that way was I didn't want to put my finger on the record while it was still because I'd get grease on it. But I figured if I put my finger on the middle of the record and started it going round with my hand like this, and then moved it onto the record itself, my finger wasn't still for long enough to put any grease on the record, and it took all the dust off. That's the way I always clean my records in my 20-year career DJing with good old-fashioned vinyl. So there you go. What else have we got? Yeah, a few of you saying, Alexi's saying the same thing. The newer Technics is a little bit less heavy, quite a lot less heavy than the old one, which is curious. I don't approve. I've used turntables, says Stan, since the 60s, and I've been through many different makes. Thank you for that. Lots of reasons to use your turntables with DJ software. A few of you commenting on this. Yes, you get the best of both worlds in a way. So you use them with DJ software, you get key lock, you can use a mode that lets you use looping and stuff like that, but you still get the feel of turntables. And of course you get all the other stuff that vinyl brings you. So yeah, that's another reason. I used to have my turntables in battle mode. I forgot to give it a name. That was when you turned your turntable through 90 degrees like this. Precisely because I didn't have enough room on my table to fit them, says Ian. So there we go. It is not always because you want to get the tone arm away from you. It is sometimes the reason I said DJs don't do it. Ian is one of the DJs who does it for precisely that reason, because there wasn't enough room on his table. Cosmic Puma says, awesomeness, Phil, thank you. I started on vinyl and have only just recently, and I guess the rest of your comments said moved, but it's cut off here for me. I still use turntables because there's music on vinyl you cannot get digitally, says Benedict. Thank you for that. Oh yes, here's the rest of Cosmic Puma's comment. I finally invested in a set of SC6000 primes and an X1850 mixer. The old skills certainly served me well on the new gear. And there is a very, very good point, because something we've noticed at Digital DJ Tips, when we started DJing, we were obviously DJing on turntables, it's all we had. Then CDJs started to arrive and we thought, wow, these are good. And CDJs developed. And then guess what happened next? It got smaller and smaller and smaller. DJ software arrived. You could buy really good controllers that did everything that these could do. And we were like, wow, have you seen this software you can run on your laptop that does everything these can do and more? And you only need one of these to use it. Wow. So then we moved to controllers. And then guess what? Someone said, have you seen this app on your phone that can do everything that that can do? And we were like, wow, man. So we kind of went from controllers to CDJs to, to turntables to CDJs to laptops to phones. Loving the whole journey. Me and my generation. Nowadays, we notice DJs starting on their phones and then managing to get a cheap controller and then managing to learn CDJs and playing clubs and then finally thinking, I'm finally going to do it. I'm finally going to learn how it used to be done on turntables. Doing the whole thing completely backwards. It's really curious and both ways are really good. Now, DJ GQ says, can you talk about the DVS systems that don't use the needle at all? Of course I can. So DVS, digital vinyl, to give you a recap, you get a special piece of vinyl that works on your computer. You get a special interface that plugs into your computer, takes what this makes, the noise this makes, which is horrible, plays it into the software understands it and sends the signal back again to your mixer. So you hear music, and that way you can control DJ software with normal turntables, special control vinyl, and little things called audio interfaces, or breakout boxes they used to be called, that look like this, where you plug your turntables in one side, you plug your mixer in on the other side, and you plug your computer in on the USB here. And then this box helps you control DJ software directly from your turntables. And indeed, modern mixers, like this one here, most modern digital mixers have that kind of thing built in, so you don't even need that box. You just plug your mixer into the computer and you plug your turntables into the mixer and it will all work that way. However, there is another way of doing it where you don't even need to have control vinyl. You don't even need to have the arm. How? You do that with a system called Phase. Now I've got Phase here. So Phase is really quite clever. Phase is a wireless, chargeable way of doing this. And it comes in two parts. Looks like this. I'll put it on the turntable so you can see it. It looks like this. So Phase, you plug into your laptop using this here, and it works with various DJ software. And then these, you put one on each turntable like this. And when you move the turntable, Phase knows what you're doing. It's got a gyroscope or accelerometer, whatever you call it, in there. It transmits wirelessly to this, which tells the software what's going on. And that way, you can DJ in a modern way, using turntables and getting all the feel of the turntable, but there's no need to go anywhere near the record with your tone arm. So how does the record know where you are if you haven't got a tone arm like this? Well, that's the final part of the jigsaw when scratching with modern gear. There's two ways of using scratch software with turntables. You can do what's called absolute mode, where it's absolutely like it was with vinyl. So if you have a piece of control vinyl on here, you put the needle at the beginning, it plays from the beginning, you skip through, it skips through. People who've used vinyl in the past love that because it feels like vinyl used to feel. But most DJs nowadays use something called relative mode, where it doesn't care about any of that. You could put the needle down for the first time there, or there, or there, or there. It'll just start playing from the beginning. And then you can lift it up and it'll stop. Put it down again, it'll carry on from where you left off. Doesn't matter where you put it up or put it down. In other words, all it's taking from the turntable is how fast it's going and which direction it's going in. So it's almost like using the turntable as a massive jog wheel, right? And where you are in the record is controlled by other controls like cue points and so on. And Phase is a version of that, and that's why Phase doesn't need the tone arm. And that's why you can get controllers and indeed DJ controllers with built-in motorized turntables that don't have one of these, because they're using the equivalent of that mode. So Phase is very, very popular. This is a good way of DJing if you don't want to use control vinyl and you're happy to DJ with turntables but in the new way. Right, what else have we got? We're talking about turntables today, people, and we're just doing the Q&A at the end. Go watch from the beginning if you are curious about these things, because we might be a digital website, and this might be our old logo from many years ago when we had these slip mats made, but these are still very much a current thing. Right, I just joined this, says MK. I've been researching turntables all week, and I've come to the conclusion that anything under £500 new is garbage. You're right. Reloop RP7000, thank me later, MK. Roman, hi Phil, will the preamp boost the sound if it's connected to the DJ controller? Right, so if you want to connect a turntable to a DJ controller, you need to get a DJ controller that's got phono preamps on it. And the way you do that is by looking at the back of the DJ controller, and I will show you one now so you can see what I mean. This is the back of a DJ controller, and you find the phono input stages, which are here. Right, you see this? This is where you plug in your external gear to a DJ controller, and you see it's got line phono here. And that means that it can take the input from a record deck. And you see that little pin there, that little metal pin, that is where you connect the earth lead that I was talking about, this little lead here, in addition to your RCAs. That goes behind this and screws in. This is a giveaway that this has been adapted to work with both CDJs or line inputs and with turntables. If your DJ gear doesn't have that kind of setup with the word phono and a ground pin on the back of it, then it won't work and it won't be able to amplify the music to make it loud enough to work with the turntable. Conversely, if you're ever DJing and you get horrible distorted sound when you plug your CDJs in, you've probably plugged them into or switched on the phono instead, and it's amplifying the CDJ input where it doesn't have to. So this is from Alan, who says, phase is very good. Thank you for that, Alan. We just had a look at phase, didn't we? I remember DJ booths having a couple of flagstones, the big paving slabs, to set the turntables on. I do too. I remember DJ booths where they literally put a concrete plinth that went all the way down to the foundations, all the way up to where you put your turntable on. So the whole room could shake with people dancing, but that, you know, the building would have to fall down for vibrations to make their way through to there. People got very, very serious back in the day with the way they set up their turntables. Stan says, I love my decks. I would never be without them. Vinyl is an amazing piece of media. It's just so bloody expensive nowadays. Always searching charity shops, and I'm finding really good stuff cheap. So thank you for sharing that. One or two more then. Tim says, a long time ago, I sold my Technics 12s and my DDJ 600, I used to have a DDJ 600, to buy a TV. Moral of the story, don't sell your gear even if you think your DJ days are over. I agree completely with that one. I think the number of people who've regretted selling their turntables that we hear about is high. Sean on Facebook, I started with decks that was two together with a mixer in the middle of an all-in-one case. We used to call them coffin cases because they were so big. All built with a light in the middle. Oh yes, you remember those bendy lights in the middle. Right, I'm going to stop here, people. There's lots of great comments coming in. Thank you very much for them, but we've had our time. I hope you've enjoyed this today. We've been talking about turntables. We've talked about all the parts on the turntable, how they work, why you might want to buy one, how to plug them in, how to use them with software, the different ways you can use them with software, and so on. So there's a lot of stuff here to help you if you're thinking about using turntables for DJing the way it's done today. And a reminder that we have got a competition running at the moment to win some headphones. So head over to the Digital DJ Tips website, click on the blog and click on Win here, where we can give you a place in the free draw to win 11 pairs of V-Moda headphones, 10 runner-up pairs, and one prize where you get yours customized with whatever logo you want on it as well. So go take a look at that on the Digital DJ Tips website. And finally, I guess I ought to tell you, we have got an article that talks all about DJing with turntables. So here's a little tip. Click the little magnifying glass top right on Digital DJ Tips and click turntables, or type turntables 2023, and you'll reach our search results with this article here, where not only do we talk you through a lot of the stuff we've already just talked about in this live with a short history of turntables and what to look for, but the parts of the turntable I just talked you about, most of them are listed on there as well, and you've got our current recommendations on which turntables to go for at the beginner end of the market, in the middle of the market, and at the top end of the market. There you go. So go take a look at that. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very, very much for joining us. I'll be back next week with another live lesson. I'll be back on Thursday with our Q&A session, which again is free, and we are here at the same time, 3 p.m. London, 10 a.m. Eastern. And if you've enjoyed all of this stuff, become our latest member. Get a copy of our book for free. Go to the same website we just looked at and click the join link in the top right-hand corner. It'll take you to this page here, which will explain how it all works, and you will benefit from our weekly newsletter called Digital DJ Tips, Tuesday Tips, which will give you lots and lots of info to make you a better DJ. And you get a copy of the book. Can't say fairer than that. Meanwhile, get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you again very soon. Till next time, bye-bye.